everyone, thanks for joining us for a DevvE kind of fireside chat. We've got our CEO and chairman, Ray Quintana, and we've also got head of communications, Steve Vicjuski. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that, Steve, because I don't say your last name very often.
That's the first time I've heard you say it. Oh, well done.
There you go.
It's a tough name to have as head of communications.
So again, we're kind of gathered to discuss, all things DevvE. The format's very straightforward. We're going to have, just a general conversation. There's been a few questions that have been asked. We'll answer what we can. We'll try and provide some clarity for the community. And again, if there's any other questions that you guys have when you're watching this, drop them into our social media channels. We'd love to do the best that we can, given constraints and circumstances to give you answers. So on that topic, we've got a few business development questions that we've been asked that we'll kick off with. The first one was, when can we expect to see enterprises being onboarded on DevvE? Is that something that you want to field, Ray, or is that something we?
Sure, I'm happy to talk to that. Again, you have to remember that our thoughts around the capabilities, what we enable, the IP that we have with the blockchain is a real competitive advantage. The initial enterprises that we've onloaded are projects that we built ourselves. The gaming platform, the ESG platform, the global marketplace, a couple of projects that we actually are cycling through right now that will be mainnet projects that will be consumer facing, that are going to be really big and market changing. So when you're asking that question, part of it is remembering that the normal business model for a layer one blockchain is to basically be the bottom of the food chain. And we're building and executing at the application layer and looking for partners to work with to create industry leading applications, leveraging all our capabilities in the market. So we are going to be working with enterprises and giving them access to shards. We're in discussions with a number of them that are actually part of the innovation shard. So this is an ongoing process. It's technically, we've already done it. And again, you have to remember that our approach to the market is completely different. It's a value capture, top end approach. We're not a technical service provider. We're a builder of enterprises ourselves.
I think that's a brilliant answer. Thanks, Ray. We are obviously working on the innovation grant shard onboarding. We're going through that process at the moment. We've had some really solid applications come through. When we can talk about that, when those projects start work, obviously we will share, what we can. Some of them are not going to want to share that competitive advantage, obviously, because that's a big part of working with our technology. It's going to allow them effectively to, leapfrog any competitors and deliver solutions in a way that that others can't. So some will demand mutual NDAs, I'm sure, and others have already expressed an interest in kind of holding their cards close to their chests. We will do what we can. I think is the best way to sum that up. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've also been asked about niches, and again, I think you've covered this in the question before, because as you said, we're a value driven kind of enterprise and an ecosystem that sort of we've tried to explain, and maybe we haven't done a good job, but we are about kind of layering that value. We're providing the value for businesses, for their customers, for all of the users of blockchain technology. It's not necessarily the traditional crypto play where people are looking at payment rails as an example. We saw obviously Bitcoin being incredibly successful as a proof of concept in the store of value kind of sense, but Ethereum with smart contracts we are not targeting niches, and I think the reason for that we can kind of share is that whole value piece. Have you got any kind of thoughts on that, Ray? Or are we potentially, obviously ESG is one of the niches we're looking at, but we offer value everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think of niche, my answer to that question would be no, exactly as you said. But if you pull back to 10,000 foot view, there are areas of real impact that we're going to be putting kind of foundational Web3 infrastructure and the DevvE business utility on top of it. And you talked about payments, but just the financial infrastructure enabling the bottom-up engagement, financial inclusion, and even the top-down, where we're working with countries to give them access to capital markets. Again, without going into too much detail, that's kind of the top-down of the marketplace as well as the bottom-up. The infrastructure to, again, enable the next generation of applications to build on our Web3 infrastructure, and again, the business utility of DevvE for digital healthcare. That's another area. Education, the ESG, as you mentioned, which overlaps every industry as well. So again, we're not niche players. We're transitioning Web2 to Web3. That's part of our vision, and we have the technical capabilities to do it. And we're looking to make the tokenized assets, or the digital assets that we have, institutional asset classes. So basically opening it up outside of the crypto cocoon, the rest of the marketplace. And that's our vision. That's what we're looking to do.
Crypto cocoon. That's a hard phrase. I'm not sure that that's going to catch on, but I get it. I think
I'd like to couple in on what Ray said there with when it comes to my perspective on businesses approaching the Web3 space. There's sort of two distinct tangents we can look at. We can look at traditional businesses and their standard Web2 models, and how we can apply DevvE and our blockchain technology just to simply reduce their costs. So rather than, we've got one section of the business looking sort of towards the past and how we can make things more efficient. And then, money service providers are a great example of how, if we can get the cost of sending money overseas down to nothing, the competitive advantage that platform A has over platform B is going to be massive. Then you've also, like sort of Ray mentioned, you've got the forward-looking Web3 applications, which takes all of these functionalities that we provide and just puts it on steroids and really pushes the business forward in new, innovative ways. Sort of two different distinct variants there.
I think you've touched on something really, really interesting there as well. And this is something that we, obviously we talk about value, we talk about, driving that value, but that value, part of that value is, as you said, in, reduced costs. And that's across every industry. There are applications already, and there are projects and businesses kind of targeting blockchain for things like supply chain, for, manufacturing, for, all of these kind of, as Ray's kind of mentioned, some of the examples, healthcare, et cetera, but the costs to deliver those services and for these businesses to fulfill, across their entire customer base puts pressure on the customers themselves, and the savings can be felt both from a business point of view and from a trickle down point of view. So the value is not just in terms of, the cost or the speed or, the advantage, it's in savings to consumers and kind of better services.
Well, and actually, so the one thing that I would want to insert there, you mentioned logistics, supply chain, you mentioned blockchain in the same word there, or the same phrase. So logistics and supply chain is, I think it's 11% of the world's GDP. So that's that's an incredibly massive market. Secondly, I almost hate to be put into the same category as what everyone thinks of when they say blockchain. because what we enable with just the speed and throughput is one thing. The fact that we enable fraud, theft, and loss, that's something that nobody else is able to do. We have patents over privacy, regulatory compliance, cross-jurisdictional compliance, all of which are incredibly important when you're transferring goods across jurisdictional areas. And again, really blocking level patents. So we're not only enabling a new paradigm in logistics that effectively lowers costs, but it also manages, mitigates, and actually eliminates a lot of risk associated with the whole process. And we do it in a way that nobody else can. And so again, really exciting domain to be talking about, in addition to the other things we talked about. And when you think of it in terms of what blockchain can do, that just scratches the surface in terms of what we can actually do, and especially again with our sharding capabilities, where one of the things they found early when they tried to do logistics with blockchain was that if you a lot of times people didn't want people to see their information, their suppliers.
Right. Public and private layers. Yeah,
exactly. And then if you had a private network, they found out that private networks aren't private. So the people on those networks have visibility into people's information, or else there is a center, a point of failure that could again put everything in jeopardy. Whereas we can for example, the three of us here, each of us could have our own private shard as where we could interact and have a fourth shard that would be for cross collaboration, and that would enable the whole process to move through seamlessly, with us only sharing the information we need to share at the time we need to share it. And it's again a completely new paradigm that delivers on the vision of what everybody thought you could do with blockchain at the beginning. And you have an immutable record. You can cross. You could immediately transfer liabilities. You can execute legal contracts, all in a way that's again not only with the immutable record and the plans laid out before and after, but also because of all that, you can also automate it. And the automation also takes out a huge amount of costs and time efficiencies as well. So that's a really exciting area for us. And we actually have one big partner that we're in discussions with that has one of our shards that they're working with that is has their own innovation in the logistics space that we're trying to put the logistics innovation squared with their technology and ours. So again, really exciting domain. And I think we need to figure out a new word for us besides blockchain.
I was literally trying to count on my fingers. There were probably 5 or 6 things that you mentioned there, and each one of them just, mind-blowing potential and opportunities. So I think we've covered the niche question really, really clearly. One of the things I loved actually about the event in Paris was conversations we would have when people would say, I'm having a problem with this, or whatever. It was literally we can do that, or we can support that. I don't think there was a single time that we were approached where someone said, we're finding issues that we can't solve with one of the major chains, or this is a problem that we've got that we weren't able to say, we can do that now. Like that's so incredibly exciting. What makes DevvE appealing? We've kind of covered this already, and I mean we could go a lot deeper, but what makes DevvE appealing to enterprises, and how do we solve their problems? I think you've kind of covered it, but we are an enterprise ready solution, and I know you can talk more about that, Ray.
Well, actually I would hit 2 things right off the top, the sharding we discussed already, being able to basically have their own blockchain that they can then collaborate with others. But another one is probably even more so important, is the integration through simple RESTful APIs. They don't have to teach people how to program in blockchain. They don't have to change their legacy systems. They can basically connect to us and start taking the benefits of Web3 seamlessly, and that's huge. And so I think all the other attributes and benefits and patents and things we bring to the table are all amazing. But the fact that they can, just basically plug and play is really exciting.
I mean,
and also on that front there, the auditability and the cost of doing that, considering other blockchain solutions, is one of the big four accounting firms going to be running an Ethereum node to validate the transactional data on there. That's not going to happen. But with those RESTful APIs, you can plug straight in and within seconds generate a report that accesses all the data you need, and in the private manner that we're referring to earlier.
Yeah, and when I'm sorry, go ahead, Devin.
No, I was going to say that's a really good point, because it's not just about a business solution. It's about all of the business solutions and enabling people to do business in the way they want to do business. That was the biggest problem with the first wave of blockchain, right? There were so many barriers in front of it, not just knowledge barriers, but use barriers, integration barriers, and resource barriers. We can plug into all of the legacy systems, and it's just that simple. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's our kind of market advantage.
Oh, it's a huge benefit. And again, when I go to these conferences and I speak to the blockchain experts, when I'm giving talks, I always kind of joke with them, and I ask them to who's the blockchain experts here, and a bunch of people raise their hand, and I ask, so who's heard of DevvE? And some of them raise their hand, and I tell them, well, if you didn't raise your hand for both, then you're not a blockchain expert. And once I get done explaining to you how we integrate through simple RESTful APIs, you'll understand that the Web2 developers are actually going to be the real blockchain experts, because they can take the knowledge that they have already in the domain spaces they are, and then they can just create from there. And that's going to be the real value driver for blockchain once we're connecting with these enterprises and working with these different groups. And again, that's fantastic. You don't need this blockchain expertise to and I'm doing the air quotes, expertise. What you do is, we're giving the experts in these domains new tools and new capabilities, and they can create new business models and new use cases. And that's the exciting part.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that plays into a lot of the questions that our community have been asking about who is building on DevvE. And really that question itself doesn't quite make sense, because you don't need to build on DevvE. You just build whatever you have, whatever tools you're comfortable with, and then come in and use the developer-friendly plugins to become a Web3 application straight away. So who is building on DevvE? Everyone is building on DevvE.
Exactly.
And, we touched again, Steve, you kind of brought up an example, a real world example of, plugging into a piece of software to generate a report. I mean, that's not your core business, but the more we kind of share examples or show examples of these types of, real world integrations, everyone thinks of kind of blockchain in a very linear kind of, fashion. They're sort of, product, input, output, and value, right? We're thinking about all of those things. So by enabling business and giving them the ability to utilize, the kind of Web3 space and Web3 technologies, we're not only giving them, the ability to generate value at that point, but all of these additional and peripheral pieces of their business become supercharged as well. So, it's, everything from, access to data through to, enabling HR and other, areas that are probably less important than, maybe if you're looking at sales and your profit, or you're looking at share price, or you're looking at other things, all of these things are integral to having this market advantage, or being able to leverage this system in the ways that make sense to you, not in the ways that you're being told to use it. So the next thing is obviously a little bit of a tricky one. They want to know, do we have any government institutions, or are we working with any government partners? We've had this conversation so many times, and the reason I'm smiling is the answer to that is kind of difficult. We can absolutely say that we are working with, or we are in conversations with several partners at that level. Can we name them? Absolutely not. I mean, there are so many reasons why we can't. Some of them.
Silence is deafening, Davin.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. Why don't I take a little bit of a crack at that? So
please, Ray, because I would love to nip that one in the bud.
Yeah. So we are having discussions at the sovereign state level. A lot of them, well, the majority of them are actually to solve single big problems that they have, that that we enable with our infrastructure and again the coin utility to solve. I really don't want to go into those use cases and what it is we're doing at this point, because that again, we're having those conversations in private with the different entities, countries. But I can tell you they're in 3 different continents, and each one, and this is funny, each one is different. So each one of these use cases can actually be replicated across a number of different other countries. And so that's really interesting. And the scale and the scope of them is also. Then also within the context of sovereign states, and I can mention this directly. Again, we were at Paris Blockchain Week, and the head of digital transformation, the minister of digital transformation for France, was on the stage talking about wanting to make Paris a Web3 hub, and wanting to bring in, the talent to drive and create this hub. And our conversation with them is pretty straightforward. We can create that hub without you having to create, new talent. With all the Web2 developers and capabilities you have, we can make any place we're located into a Web3 hub directly. And so again, that's really interesting. And then the last piece is we're actually part of the Digi Foundry, which is a DAO. It's the U.S. government's DAO, and they have a number of use case areas that they're looking for solutions. And so we're working directly with them and the different stakeholders in the government to provide those solutions. This is a new development, so we're just starting to move things along, but it's a way for us to, again, directly illustrate our capabilities and the ease of use in being able to solve these problems that they have brought front and center, and get direct access to the U.S. government at the highest levels.
Guys, I mean, that again, I didn't think you were going to share anywhere near as much as that, Ray. So just mark this piece in the video and watch that piece again. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is that it's a highly competitive space, right? I mean, business and any kind of company that is dealing with the types of issues and problems that we're capable of solving. Obviously we have competitors at different levels. I'm not going to sort of position us around the kind of L1 blockchain space as competitors, but we have advantages across a number of different areas that make us very compelling when you're talking to, states, enterprises, and kind of organizations. Obviously, it's not in our best interests to, disclose why we're doing what we're doing or how we're doing what we're doing. And I know that, we do have these conversations a lot. It is counterintuitive in the crypto space that we're not literally just shouting from the rooftops about these kind of amazing things. And I know that a lot of our, supporters and token holders would love us to, to be able to share all of this. But the reality is we're building a business that's, going to be multi-generational. If we can achieve half of our vision, and, we're on track to be, definitely kind of pushing the envelope in a number of different areas, for us to succeed and benefit everybody, we have to be able to do business in the way that makes sense for all of these kind of Web 2 enterprises and all of the advantages that we can leverage and share with them. So please stop asking us for, please stop asking us for, insider information or things that, where we recognize the importance of sharing. We're going to be as transparent as we can. But please, when we say that we can't talk or share, just take us at our word, because we do want to. I mean, it's in our best interest, right? But we just can't.
What we can say is, what do you think is the best effective resource allocation? Hearing Ray say what he just said and the conversations that he's having, would you rather him come into the Telegram to pump up the price, or be speaking with those kind of institutions? So choice is yours.
Very good answer, Steve. I know Ray would rather be in Telegram chats all day long.
Sure,
all day. Yeah, across all the time zones. That would be my favorite. That would be my best day. And one other thing to remember, again, and we mentioned this earlier, is the business development we're doing isn't, again, trying to sell or pay people to build on our blockchain. We're building what we are looking to build is category leaders with top partners, including governments, or solutions for governments that fit in that category. So it isn't the same type of engagement, corporate process, or communication process. The communication cycle is completely different for those types of business models. And if it was just technical service provider at the bottom level, it would be a lot easier to communicate what we're doing and who we're working with.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You've kind of touched again on something that we've mentioned before. And in fact, I kind of centered a pitch around this when we were in Paris, but we are not driven by a fee-based revenue structure in the traditional crypto sense. So, you said, again, you don't want to pay people to come and build on our chain. Traditionally, and I hate the word traditionally, because, crypto obviously hasn't been around long enough to be traditional. But what we know of, the approach in the space, it has been, obviously some projects moving out into, enterprise solutions. We had Ripple obviously going directly after banks. We had, early kind of promise with Hyperledger, and obviously that was, an unwieldy solution. What we're doing is kind of changing that paradigm again. All of these sort of layer ones that we see at the moment in the crypto space, kind of working to that mass adoption layer of, we want to pay people, incentivize people, build your, and again, not belittling any of these projects. Some of them are incredibly innovative, right? But, build your solutions on our chain, bring all of those users there, and then, our revenue model exists on a fee-based structure. We get a percentage of the gas, we get a percentage of the users, we get, it's fractional, but it's how they make money. Our model is again, back to that value exchange. Of course we're going to make money, right? We have a foundation that's going to generate, value across all of those, an association that's going to generate value across all of those, kind of, impact asset and ESG areas. But as a business, we are for profit, but we're not going to do that at the expense of all of the value that we're going to share and the users that we're going to kind of enable, and a rising tide raises all boats effectively.
Exactly.
A good way
okay,
So a good way to surmise that would be that we know that we have something of value that other people are going to want. So we don't want to give it away for free.
Again, Steve, I'm going to employ you as a translator. Thank you. The last thing, and this is an open question, and it's a bit of a softball for you, Ray. What are you excited about in the next 3 to 6 months? And this could be anything from the next World Series to
Well, what I'm actually excited about is the things that we're working on and executing in the near term for the next 6 months. We've actually been planning for over the last 4 years. So it's all the pieces that we have in place, the platforms we've already built out, the discussions we're having. All those are a part of a strategic framework and plan that's been moving forward and accumulating to the point now where it's now more of a tactical process to prioritize the areas that we want to operationally execute on and drive forward. And that's exciting. It's the old, I love it when a plan comes together, and the fact that, we've reached this point, have the resources we need and are moving forward to that next stage is incredibly exciting. And it seems that the timing with regards to the adoption and the interest in Web3 is that's coming together really nicely. And you can't ever time the market. So I can't take any credit at all for any of that. But the fact that we're lining up is just makes it doubly so exciting. So yeah, that sounds simple, but it's a lot of work, and the opportunity scope that it enables and that we're sitting on now is really tremendous. It's hard to communicate, all the nuance and the bulk of it to directly to anybody that's not standing there at the edge of the cliff with you looking out at it. That's very exciting.
Thank you, and I love that you got an 18 reference in there. I think that's also very exciting. The only other thing that and again, maybe Steve, obviously we've got, as you said, a lot going on. An overnight success in 7 years in the making, and it's going to continue that way. We've seen the kind of the growth of the opportunities and the potential within the gaming space, for example, as a big narrative this time around. You're very, very close to some of the work that we're doing on our Launchpad, Steve, and the gaming space. Is there anything that you're excited about in that sector or that space over the next 3 months, 6 months?
What excites me most about the Web3 blockchain industry is going to be the way that it's going to be able to align the incentives of the users and the game developers together. So what that means is what's best for the game, what's best for the player is also what's best for the developer. And that way, once everybody's incentives are aligned in the way to move future games forward, that's, for me, is the big ticket item to creating the next generation of businesses in the gaming industry. So it's not your traditional play to earn type thing where you come in and you play a game and you earn money. It's about participation and being part of the value chain with the people that are both incentivized to work with you as well. So that's where I see Fias and all the future blockchain games that come into our ecosystem can really benefit from the blockchain side of things.
And the funny thing about that is that's actually the same model in the ESG space, where we align everybody's interest, whether they're focused solely on creating returns and revenue, or solely focused on the impact to the environment, where we can solve cost center problems for oil and gas companies, and then reduce methane and impact in the environment, and then tokenize that and generate revenues for it so that we get everybody on board pulling the same direction. And there's no or very little environmental or social impact without economic impact. And getting everybody pulling in the same direction is very powerful, and the only way we're going to solve those problems as well. So I think
You
it
mentioned
permeates throughout, the business models that you can leverage and create with the Web3 and our tokenization.
So you mentioned there the social element of the ESG, and I actually think that the gaming side of blockchain does play a lot into the social element, because there is value in you as a player, in the time that you spend online, the time that you spend in a game with friends, building virtual businesses and things like that together. That has tangible value. So if we can find a way to be able to get people to realize that, that's going to be one of the biggest social impact assets available.
Well, there's no question. For me, that's absolutely true. And the conversations we've had since the beginning, that was the vision, because the key piece or building block of that is the self-sovereign identity and the enablement of the infrastructure to allow you to really own all the value that you create, or at least participate with the value capture, and then the tokenization and the DevvE that allows the transfer of that and the ownership outside of the game itself. So I would agree 100%, and have thought so since the beginning, that the social component of that is huge.
Couldn't agree more. I was just going to say that, moving back to the ESG side, we had a very, very interesting conversation with, I would have to say not a skeptic, but someone that was kind of worn out by the argument around impact assets, ESG investment, and its force for good within about 5 minutes. And I'm not going to name names, but this person had worked on kind of both sides, was a passionate advocate for the environment. I know that you remember the conversation, Ray. She was working for the ministry, and we, or you personally, within sort of 3 to 5 minute conversation, had completely changed her way of thinking just around the alignment of value, to the point where she was then kind of reaching out to invite us to attend conferences and speak on that, because it just made sense to her. You could see the light bulb and the moment where she was like, I really don't like oil and gas companies, or I really don't like these people who I see as the problem. But if we can align all of those values, then maybe that actually starts to make sense. And I just loved the way that conversation, which I thought was going to be quite hostile, turned into a very, very warm goodbye, and a very kind of promise of again invitations to events and speaking opportunities. Well done.
Thank you. And again, I can't take the credit for that. It's what all of us have created here and enabled. And a big part of what we need to do now is, get it communicated into the marketplace so that we can channel the energies and focus of people like the individual you're talking about. And again, the compounding value as we bring more people onto the platform is going to be tremendous.
I agree. Okay, so again, moving things forward in the conversation a little bit, we've had some questions around blockchain development, and this is something that, again, we kind of have to stress. It is a part of what we're doing here, but it's not in the same way that people kind of expect technical updates and things from other layer ones. And this is, again, a bit of a kind of recent tradition in the blockchain space. Everything is open, transparent. We're moving through these kind of technical development phases. We've expressed again, and depending on how you watch this, in which order you kind of view the content, that's not our business, and that's not what we're doing. Blockchain is integral to how we provide the services that we provide and the value that we create. But we're not going to provide that kind of technical level, overview and development of our technology and of our secret sauce. But I'm more than happy to, clarify. The blockchain is live. It's operational. It's live. We are literally going through the process of onboarding organizations and startups through the innovation grant shard. Ray, you've mentioned multiple examples that have, obviously we built on it to start with. But we do have other partners that are kind of working, on that technology. I think the question really is about what people can touch and look and feel. And I know that, Tom's tried to address this, on his side around blockchain explorers and things like that. Do either of you have anything to talk about on the blockchain side that you think will add clarity for people who are desperate to kind of look, see, touch, and feel our technology, because that then makes it real?
Well, I have an advantage, of course, of being here early. So I believe it was about 4 years ago, we were at CES and we had a booth and we set up the game. And at that time, the game was just something we had put together to stress test the system. It's not easy to stress test 8 million transactions per second. Visa does 35,000. They may say they do more, but their technical team has told me definitively that they do 35,000. And we put the blockchain up next to the game, and people could play it and see the blockchain being built in real time with immediate settlement. We were able to explain to them, when you hit that button and do any move or whatever you're doing in the game, how the messaging is going out, how the consensus is being done, how the block is being checked off on, how we could decide how much of the consensus was required, what level of security, and then the block was put in place. So you could literally watch the game being played in real time in the context of what looked like a Web 2 game, and at the same time see the blockchain being built right next to it. And it was really amazing to see that. So now, without actually having that side screen with the blockchain, being developed or built out in real time, anytime you go and play Litcraft, that's exactly what's doing. That's what it's doing. That's all being done on the blockchain. Every single keystroke you do is being added to the chain in real time, and it's incredible. We have the global marketplace that Jason built out, the glass block with all its capabilities, and both in the payment side and the managing of the inventory and the execution, the immediate settlement. All of that is also the blockchain in real action. And the power is we've abstracted it out. So you're trying to touch something that we've actually eliminated from the equation. And I can understand why that's hard to grasp, literally and figuratively. But that is what's going on. And as we bring on development partners or with the innovation shard, their outputs are going to be the same thing. You're going to be experiencing what you're used to experiencing in a Web 2 environment, but it's actually going to be Web 3. It's going to have capabilities that and enable business models that couldn't be done with Web 2. And it's going to be hard for you to again understand that is actually Web 3 because it's been abstracted out.
And I think that's the best way to put it, right? We've abstracted the blockchain because people at the end of the day, whether you're an enterprise or just an end user and a customer, you really want the result. You want the value. You don't want and some people, I get it, want to lift the lid and poke around and look underneath. And there are ways that we will enable that, in future. But, in the short term, it's really about that kind of, value enablement that we consistently discuss. So, Yeah, it's anything on your side, Steve, to simplify that?
Yeah, I guess the way that I like to think about it, and we can sort of contextualize it a bit with what we were talking about earlier in the chat, is that we're really productizing a enterprise grade software solution here that's designed for the end user. So we might, as crypto nerds, might like block explorers and pushing around all the buttons underneath, but that's the realization there is that that's probably going to be 0.001% of our overall users that are going to be using DevvE. So we understand their place in the crypto space, but if you're thinking about where we should be focusing our efforts, while they're nice to have, the idea of productizing a blockchain product is, about removing all those barriers to entry
Exactly.
for the average person.
Unless you're a Linux developer or a Unix developer or someone like that, you're not working on a command line. Most people, they turn on their laptop and they expect to see, the Apple logo or Windows pop up, and they want to get straight on a browser and do what they've got to do. They want to answer their emails. All of these things have reams and reams of code and dependencies that relate to other parts of the system. I couldn't think of anything worse than having to understand, integrate with all of that, just simply respond to an email. I have to do something that is integral to my day-to-day life, right? Just give me the output. Tell me how many arms an octopus has. Like, whatever I'm Googling, I need to know, it's important.
There you go. We're the Apple of blockchain.
Well, and actually, it's even a higher level than that. What you're talking about is, much deeper into the weeds. It's more like, in my mind, having a mobile phone and wanting to see the wires where they connect to, the headset, to the phone, to the jack connecting into the wall. It doesn't exist. It's not there, and they want to see it. And but again, at the end of the day, you don't care about that in the sense that when you hit dial, the fact that there's someone at the other end. Yeah, that's the important part. But now you not only get a phone, you get all these applications on your phone, and that completely changes the paradigm of what it means to have a phone. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
One of the questions we're never going to be able to get away from, I think, is going to be the token migration question. And, it is a valid question. People want to know why we don't have, DevvE on, our native chain. It's a big conversation, but maybe we could summarize. Ray, is there anything that, you wanted to, from a top level, just kind of explain our rationale behind obviously the ERC20 listing, and then why there's no dedicated timeline for that migration initially?
Yeah, so it's simple. The ERC20 was done so that we could manage and be on the exchanges. They couldn't handle our network. Again, it's like plugging in. I always say tying a wagon to a rocket. So there was that issue, and the reason for not having it on the main net initially is that our mainnet projects were enterprise projects. They're the ones we've been talking about, and what we envisioned was a project or a rollout that was more consumer facing and touched a number of core pieces in the ecosystem that would be where we did the initial mainnet launch of the coin. And that's something that is very near term for us to be rolling out. And again, something that I can't go into more detail because it involves a number of partners and across regulatory jurisdictions as well. And it's going to be very impactful on a very large scale. And that's the time that, we'll have not only a place for the token and the coin to really run and create value, but also plugs that will be able to bring a lot more of the applications and utilities that we've been talking about to the table. So again, we don't do anything without a plan. Everything has been structured from a long-term perspective, and it's also pushing out from a long-term perspective. This isn't an overnight thing. We're not just trying to put some coins out and then cash them in and then go to the islands and hang out. We're building something that we want to be creating value and be here long after we're gone. And so we're doing our best to do it the right way, or at least the best way we can do it, and create value for everybody, especially the people that have been with us early and from the beginning, and have continued to be with us and trust us and what we're building here.
I think you've answered that and more. That was very succinct. And if you again want to rewatch that segment, maybe 2 or 3 months from now, you might might be able to draw some hidden meaning. But that's all I'm going to say as well. Okay, so we're not going to cover the technical side of things. On the blockchain, we've discussed why and where and how. We've kind of talked a little bit about our approach to the technology and why we're obscuring it, because again, it makes sense from our clients, partners, and enterprise level kind of point of view. We are still getting questions around the token issuance. I think one of the big ones that we have addressed, I think quite clearly in the white paper update, is around phase 1 and phase 2. I think potentially just again to reiterate on phase 2 and the requirements there. Insights and I mean, we understand why, and I think hopefully the community, having kind of absorbed that, sees that again, as you said, Ray, we don't do anything without a plan. We're not again kind of just randomly approaching this as a it's not a as you said, raise some money, go to the islands type approach. This is a long-term kind of proposition. Can you just explain to people very, very simply and clearly why it's necessary to have that type of flexibility when we're looking at the scale of kind of enterprise adoption and wider adoption that we're looking at?
Yeah. So it's all in the context of the business model. So a lot of times I've heard tokenomics models where they issue X amount of coins, then they try to lock up the supply, burn tokens, etc. And that type of model is basically a zero-sum model. It's where if you take that to the extreme, at the end of the day, one person is going to be holding a coin that's worth the entire market cap of what the coin is. And there's no value creation associated with that. There is the initial, some value point that created the market cap. And then from there, it's being distributed in an ever diminishing amount of tokens. But of course, intuitively, you have to understand that model fails somewhere, because you can't have one coin that is worth the entire market cap. And so that's just a losing business model. For at some point, there's an inflection point where it, the value collapses, and that's not at all what we're doing. So our model is more of the standard business value creation, where the tokens are actually, you can think of them as fuel that drives the growth of the whole project, or the enterprise ecosystem that we're building. Again, that value can be compounding, and which is, you keep hearing me saying it because it's so powerful and it's embedded in our business model and how we approach things. And it's also kind of stupid to create a value engine and not feed it as much as you can. So the whole process, though, you can, there's a balance in terms of how much you can actually run through the engine. And so when we're not giving exact specifics in terms of timing or amounts, it's because we on the one hand don't want to be locked into, well, you said this and it said that, because we don't know what the exact specifics would be in terms of optimizing that value creation. And so the whole model is exciting because we really are positioned to not only initiate and that growth and allow the people that have participated to really capture a lot of the upside, but to continue to drive that growth into what we look as a global opportunity and a multidimensional opportunity. So we really need those resources at hand if we're going to really create and capture the value that we think we can with all the work we've done to this point.
Good answer. And I think to continue or extend that engine metaphor, without that resource, you're throttling the engine, and that doesn't benefit anybody, right? We need that to grow and enable the value across the entire ecosystem. And if rightly people recognize an opportunity where there's a supply deficit or there's an increase in demand, it's unlikely that they're going to kind of freely relinquish the mechanism to enable that throughput. They would naturally, I'm assuming, want to drive that demand to a higher point, which would then increase the inflation, and unfortunately those kind of blockers prevent the growth that we're trying to achieve, which drives that value for everybody. So I think that's a really good metaphor, Ray. Okay, so moving on really quickly, we've covered the token issuance, we've covered phase 2. There's lots of details there in the white paper that you guys can read, and I would very strongly encourage you guys to read it. We've put a lot of effort in there to kind of explain as much as we can. One of the questions that you have addressed already, Ray, and I think we do have to mention and then move quickly on from. There are lots of questions about the exchange. I just want to kind of explain to people that, obviously it's hugely important. Obviously, it is something that we are working on. We cannot discuss, a lot of the details, for a variety of reasons that we've already discussed tonight. But if there's anything that we can kind of, give to people, we are incredibly optimistic about what's happening. We're working very, very hard to deliver. One comment and we move on. What can we say to people who are just constantly asking us, for details and when exchanged and all of that?
I can neither confirm or deny the existence of a plan for an exchange.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's probably a good soundbite. Okay, so moving swiftly on to staking, and this is something that is pretty exciting because it is imminent. We actually have a test that we're going to be going through tomorrow, just to kind of look at dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Depending on when you watch this video, that probably happened, and you're probably looking at the staking platform right now, hopefully. However, I want to cover off just a few of the key points, and Steve is obviously very, very plugged into that, and maybe we can just sum up the benefits and why our staking platform is unique, Steve, because it really, really is.
Yeah, it's that's one you asked Ray before what he's most excited about. I think the staking is going to be absolutely massive for us. So it's easiest to define it in sort of two different ways. You've got staking for the Launchpad platform itself, and then you've got staking for our passive pool. So you can stake your DevvE and you can earn your membership tier, and that will allow you access to all these new and exciting Launchpad products that we have coming out, and you can invest in all the projects that want to launch on our non-confirmed exchange. They might have it on there, a little pathway to launch on there. But I think what's going to be the most compelling part about this is staking DevvE to participate in our passive pool. So obviously, DevvE isn't a proof of stake cryptocurrency. We have our own consensus mechanism. So the way that we can reward users for locking and holding the DevvE token is we have this concept called the Devvdrop. And the scale of how big the Devvdrop could be is very much stringent on all these other factors that we've talked about, how we're going to be expanding our business into what realms, and the ability for the Devvdrops to work concurrently with pools one by another. The way that these can expand up as we grow has a lot of potential.
So in a nutshell, one of the big differences around our staking is that we're not rewarding people with DevvE tokens. As Ray said before, that's a kind of zero sum game. It's a losing business model to kind of provide a reward. If you're not a proof of stake mechanism, or you don't require that kind of input from people from a staking point of view, to just pay people for holding your tokens is counterintuitive, and potentially damaging in the long term. So what we want to do is reward people with other people's tokens, which again, is kind of a very, very intuitive and different way of thinking about incentivizing both the projects that come through our ecosystem and all of the various mechanisms that they may or may not take advantage of. But more importantly, incentivizing and creating opportunities for those who participate with the token to derive greater utility, to derive greater value, and to potentially, derive greater rewards. So I think, check out the documents, as Steve said, draw your own conclusions, and we are very, very excited about the imminent launch of both the staking and the Launchpad platform. Is there anything that you would like to add, Ray, on the institutional staking side? Because that is a big component for the Forever Association, the Forever Fund, the Evergreen Fund, sorry, and the kind of life cycle that we've kind of described in terms of the value of institutional staking investing.
Yes, and I am happy that you mentioned that, because I think it's important that we again describe that whole process, and also again understand that this is something we've been putting together for a long time. It's been part of our strategic planning for a number of reasons. One of which is that we enable a business flywheel that drives compounding growth, positive impact, huge value creation, and arguably the biggest market on the planet. There's tens of trillions of dollars that have been, earmarked and focused in ESG because of the fact that we're at the point where there's physical manifestations of all of what has been predicted with regards to climate change and et cetera. So with the token sale, the profits from that, or the capital, is then put into an evergreen fund. That fund leverages the Web3 technology and, of course, the business utility of the token to enable the creation, certification, and capture of these impact assets that will add to the potential success and the growth of not only the positive impact, but the companies themselves. So when those companies are sold, or the profits taken from them, that profit will go back into the fund to invest in new companies, and the impact assets that are generated will go onto our marketplace, and they have a very high demand, because that market opportunity is expected to grow 30% annually, which is, again, those are venture capital returns for commodity assets. So you have enterprises who are wanting to be net zero, lining up to purchase those assets, and there aren't premium assets in the marketplace for them to get access to. So by purchasing the token and staking it, they will get priority access to those assets, and at the same time enable us to continue to fuel the enterprises or the investments, the projects that we identify and leverage with our technology to continue to create those assets. And that positive spiral and business flywheel that's created from that is again continues to drive the utility and the demand for the token, and it's a positive economic spiral for everyone. At the same time, a tremendous positive spiral for social and environmental impact.
So again, we've spoken about the Launchpad, in a number of different ways. I think one of the key points of difference around what we're doing with the Launchpad is not just around the the incubation and the enablement, bringing these kind of projects to market. We offer a lot of value that other teams and other projects can't. We have an ecosystem and infrastructure around us that is going to give them unique market advantages. Like you said before, Ray, it's all kind of part of the plan, and I love it when a plan comes together. The Launchpad fits very, very nicely into a lot of what we've discussed tonight, in terms of the wider ecosystem. Is there anything that you would really like to surface or share with the community around what we're doing in this space, Steve? I know you've spent a lot of time working on it with us, so you're the man to shed some light.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what plays into our competitive advantage for the Launchpad ties into all the productization that we're doing for blockchain in general for business. So if we think about everything that we're doing at DevvE as an end-to-end application for anyone that wants to come into the blockchain space, it's not only just our legal frameworks and support networks that we can offer projects coming into the crypto space. It's the entire end-to-end application that we can offer in DevvE. So yeah, it's more than just the lawyers.
I think well done. I think that's a good summary. And I don't want to leave it on the lawyers. Potentially, if we could, again, we've kind of talked about what we're excited about. There is a lot coming up. We've talked about why we can't, again, share too much of the inside information, insights to some of the bigger things that will turn up and kind of drive things in the community. But is there anything that you would like to kind of reinforce, just as a final word, around the reason that we believe DevvE is forging this paradigm in the crypto space? And I mean, I'm not going to ask you to predict the future, but if you did have a crystal ball, and you could see kind of the trajectory of blockchain business over the next sort of 2 to 3 years and their adoption, how would you categorize that?
Well, so to answer your question, and actually to sum up some of what we've been talking today, I'll start on that side. So you've mentioned a couple of times to read the white paper. One thing I would really encourage people to do is to really look at the patents, and what we're talking about from IP, and the IP there. There's hundreds of pages of patents, and all of those are open and creating new IP that the ownership of it and the creation of it is really what enables all these new paradigms. And the technical summary is also great, but again, just understanding the ownership of that. When we first filed a number of them, they came back with no prior art, and we were shocked. No one thought to build a blockchain that worked within regulatory structures or enabled privacy or fraud, theft, and loss, and all self-sovereign identity. All these different aspects that are just each one, kind of individually is a potentially blocking level patent that creates tremendous value. And to actually have all of these in aggregate is really tremendous. The future, kind of when I think of the future, the old quote, the only way to predict the future, or the best way, is to create it. And I would tie that to kind of a call to action for all the, smart, creative people that are part of our community. If you can think it, there's a very good chance that we could potentially create it, working together. And I would say, don't be shy, reaching out to us, sharing thoughts, or, even tasking us about solving problems that will allow us to create this future that we're talking about. And that's what we're going to be doing in the near, mid, and long term. So that's the part that's exciting, is that future's in our hands.
Well said, Ray. There's one word that you said there, which was creation, which I think is a big part of the future of blockchain. As sort of we go through these market downturns here and there, it really does consolidate the projects down to those that are creating value, not those that are extracting it from others or just transferring it around and washing it around. The future of blockchain is going to be those companies who enable the creation of value. So I would expect a lot of consolidation in the crypto markets around that theory moving forward, which is what DevvE does fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and it's impossible for me to add more to that. I think you've both done a great job of summarizing the opportunity, the potential, what we're working towards. I'm hoping that for anyone watching this, that it's given you some clarity, that you've been able to understand maybe a little bit more around what we are, who we are kind of trying to work with, the problems that we're trying to solve. Again, we're going to get better at communicating. We're going to keep working to provide you guys with updates. We are working very, very hard to fulfill all of our promises, and we are incredibly, I know I speak on behalf of the rest of the team, we are very excited about what the future holds. So thanks for watching, thanks for being a part of it, and yeah, we will see you very, very soon.